quiet smile hides more than anyone ever sees. It settles softly on the face, gentle enough to look real, calm enough to keep questions away. People notice the curve of the lips, the light in the eyes, the warmth in the expression, but they never feel the silence beneath it. They never hear the tired breath held behind it, or the thoughts that sink deeper each time the smile appears. You smile when the room grows uncomfortable. You laugh when your chest tightens. You say it is okay long before you even ask yourself if it is. You make light of heavy moments. You let your kindness speak louder than your sadness. And in the middle of it all, you shrink a little so no one sees you slipping. This is the loneliness that learns to look polite, the ache that dresses itself in softness. But what happens when the smile becomes the only place you hide? You smile when something stings a little too sharply. You listen more than you speak, letting others fill the silence so you never have to. You sit in conversations like a soft shadow, present but never heavy. You avoid becoming the problem in any room, even when the ache inside you is louder than anything being said. You hold your breath during tense moments, releasing it only when the danger of attention has passed. You give warmth before anyone asks, just to keep the peace steady. Around you, the world grows quieter. Your room stays dim, as if the light might reveal too much. Soft lamps replace bright overhead bulbs. Blankets rest folded at the edge of the bed, untouched but comforting. On your desk, notebooks lie open with half-written thoughts you didn't finish because you weren't sure anyone would understand them. A window becomes your quiet companion. You look out at the world in slow pauses, tracing the outlines of things that feel safer from a distance. Even your footsteps adjust to the mood, gentle and careful, as if you've taught your body not to disturb the air around you. Inside, the unspoken dialogue never stops. I'm fine. Don't worry. It wasn't a big deal. You rehearse these lines before anyone even asks. They feel safer than the truth. They feel easier than unraveling the knot you've learnt to hide. So you let the words carry the weight instead of your voice. You let them shield the part of you that aches for someone to notice something is off without you having to say it. You don't talk about the moments when your chest tightens for no reason. You don't mention how you replay conversations hours later, wondering if your smile looked convincing enough. You don't admit that sometimes you laugh just to stop the questions from forming in someone else's eyes. It is easier to be the calm one. It is easier to be the steady one. It is easier to be the person no one worries about. But beneath the practiced ease, there is a quiet contradiction. You are not pretending. You are protecting your private ache. You are carrying emotions that never had a safe place to rest. You are guarding the softness you've never been allowed to show. You smile to calm others. Not because you feel calm. Psychologists describe this as emotional masking. When the smile becomes armor long before you ever understand why you need it. It begins quietly, often in childhood, when conflict hangs in the air like heavy dust. You learn to absorb the moods around you. You watch faces, voices, footsteps. You memorize the subtle shifts that tell you whether the room is safe. You become skilled at smoothing tension before it erupts, offering calmness to keep others steady. Somewhere along the way, you start believing that your real feelings are too heavy for anyone else to carry. The mechanism is simple but deeply human. When you grow up around unpredictable emotions, you learn to manage them even when they aren't yours. When you fear burdening someone, you learn to shrink your needs until they disappear. When staying quiet keeps the peace, you learn to treat silence as safety. And when your smile reassures people, you learn to wear it like a shield. The smile becomes armor, the silence becomes shelter, and loneliness becomes a small room inside you, one with no lock because you never leave it. You decorate it with politeness. You fill it with easy laughter. You keep the lights low inside that room because too much brightness would reveal the truth hidden in the corners. You move through the world quietly, holding the door to that room closed with every practiced grin. You learned to make happiness believable. You learned it so well that even you forget when the act begins and when it ends. There are moments when the mask slips, but only for a breath. Sitting at a family dinner, you smile at a joke that doesn't reach your eyes. No one notices because they've never had to. In a group of friends, you laugh a little louder to hide the way your chest feels hollow. You lift the corners of your mouth at the right time, nod in the right rhythm, and nobody sees the flicker of loneliness beneath it. You are surrounded by people, yet untouched by connection. Seen, but not understood. Inside, the conflict grows. Part of you wants to be honest, to let the softness show. But another part remembers the years when honesty led to silence, tension, or disappointment. So you protect yourself the only way you ever learned how. You smile through the ache. You stay polite through the heaviness. You convince the world you're okay because the alternative feels unfamiliar, exposed, vulnerable. You smile because the alternative feels dangerous. You weren't smiling for joy, you were smiling for safety. It was never about happiness. It was about holding the atmosphere together, about keeping the room steady when everything inside you felt unsteady. Your smile became the softest way to protect yourself from the weight of other people's moods. This began long before you ever understood the pattern. You carried emotional labor as a child, learning to soothe tension that wasn't yours to carry. You became the peacekeeper, the one who absorbed storms before they reached anyone else. You learned to erase your own needs because they felt too loud, too heavy, too risky. And over time, you became the easy one, the calm one, the person no one had to worry about. The world praised that version of you, but it was built on self-disappearance. What if loneliness followed you because you never learned to stay? What if the emptiness you feel is just the echo of all the moments you slipped out of yourself to keep others comfortable? There comes a moment when the truth becomes impossible to ignore. Maybe you're standing in front of a mirror, the room quiet, the world finally still. You smile out of habit, but something inside you doesn't follow. The curve of your lips holds, but your eyes reveal the fatigue you've been carrying for years. You notice the way your shoulders tense, even in silence. You notice how the smile fades the second you're alone, like a light switched off in an empty hallway. It's a small moment, but it hits with the weight of recognition. You were never avoiding vulnerability. You were avoiding the possibility that you're real. Feelings might inconvenience someone. The reflection staring back isn't weak. It isn't dramatic. It's tired in a way that only someone who has held everyone else together can be tired. For the first time, you see the child underneath the performance. The one who tried too hard to be good, calm, easy, manageable. You never wanted to be strong. You just never had another option. And now that you finally see this, the quiet question lingers in the air, soft but impossible to ignore. What would your smile look like if it didn't have to protect you anymore? You're not fake. You're careful. You're not distant. You're discerning. Your smile was never a lie. It was a language you created to move through a world that didn't always know how to handle your softness. You weren't hiding who you were. You were protecting the parts of yourself that felt too easily bruised. You learned to carry yourself gently because no one else did. You learned to soften your steps, to quiet your needs, to make yourself small enough to fit into everyone's expectations. This wasn't weakness. It was the only form of self-preservation you had. Every polite laugh, every quick "okay," every softened truth was your way of keeping your inner world from shattering under the weight of someone else's chaos. Imagine your smile as a tired lantern, glowing because it must, even when the flame flickers at the edges. Imagine your heart as a quiet room, still warm, but untouched for so long that even sunlight feels unfamiliar. Imagine your loneliness as an unvisited garden, overgrown, tender, full of places you haven't stepped into in years. None of these things are broken. They are simply waiting for gentler care. There is nothing wrong with wanting to be seen softly. There is nothing wrong with craving a place where your smile isn't a performance, but a reflection of real warmth. And maybe this is where the shift begins. Not in forcing yourself to speak louder or feel differently, but in allowing your smile to rest, in letting it be just a smile, not your shield, in letting your guard lower one breath at a time, in giving yourself the permission that no one ever knew how to give you. Your smile doesn't need to be armor forever. There will come a day when it won't have to hold the weight of your loneliness, when it can simply exist, gentle and honest, carrying nothing but light. It started quietly, and maybe that's how the healing begins too. Not with a sudden breakthrough or a loud revelation, but with the softest shift inside you. A loosening, a breath you didn't realize you were holding, a moment where the weight behind your smile finally begins to lighten. You're not hiding, you're learning to rest. You're learning that you don't have to perform steadiness to deserve safety. You're learning that the world won't fall apart if you stop holding every piece together. And for the first time, the silence around you doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like a room where you can finally hear your own heartbeat again. The room is dim, your shoulders lower, your smile softens into something real, something that belongs to you, not to anyone else's expectations. A gentle exhale slips out, quiet but full of meaning. It's the kind of breath that says, I made it here. Without force, without fear, and in that small, unremarkable moment, something shifts. The quiet doesn't feel lonely anymore. It feels honest, like the beginning of a life where your smile isn't a mask, but a mirror of your inner peace. If this feels familiar, your smile has been carrying more than your voice. There's a whole world behind it, one that deserves to be understood gently, not rushed or judged. In the next story,